In your smart contract, you will always have an intended use for each of your functions, and at times it would be non-restrictive and anyone is able to call that function at any time. But that is not always the case. Say if you have a payable function that should do a data storage action only if a particular amount has been paid, you would need to restrict your function for that. One way to do this would be to use an if condition, but this means that any gas fees that user pays is completely wasted with no result. What happens to the amount sent by the user? It gets all complicated. Well, there's a simpler way to do it. Let's see how you can manage exceptions in your smart contract. For this exact situation, we have 3 predefined functions in Solidity. These functions can be used to revert the transaction and undo any state change up until this point. These are assert, require, and revert. Assert has a syntax assert bool condition. It can revert back any changes in state but will use up the remaining gas. Require has syntax require bool condition and an optional string memory message. This will revert changes as well as refund remaining gas and optionally return a debug message for the error as well. Revert, unlike the other two, does not take a boolean condition parameter but has the optional parameter to return a debug message. Therefore, its syntax looks like revert string memory message. This requires the use of an external condition statement like an if condition and is more expensive than require. Back to our smart contract, we can technically use either of the 3 to check if the user has paid enough for the transaction to go through. Say we want the user to pay 2 ETH to have a number stored. So in our function from earlier, let's remove everything other than the core code, and then at the first line we check if message.value is equal to 2 ether, and if not, we return the debug message. Thing to note here is that in both assert and require, the boolean condition given needs to be true for the transaction to go ahead. Let's deploy it on JavaScript VM. Now we can call the function first without paying anything, and as you can see, the transaction is reverted. Next, we can try sending 2 ether and it works fine. Another thing to note is if any changes were made in the transaction before it failed require, it would revert even those changes. So let's change our function to change the number first and then have the require function. Redeploy and test. As you can see, the transaction reverts, the variable value hasn't changed. That's it for this video, but there's more for you to watch. Check out our blockchain playlist to find more videos like this or this video that YouTube recommends for you, and we'll see you next time.